Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Power Core Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you another video. And today, we're going to be getting into what if Deku was the son of Rock Lee, My Hero Academia Fighting Spirit Part 2. As always, if you enjoy everything on Power Core Productions and Podcastings, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. And if you haven't already, please check out some of our earlier videos from this week, including What If Issei Was the Shield Hero, Devil of the Shield, High School DxD, Season 1, Part 2, and What If Naruto Was the Avatar, Naruto Rebirth Shippuden, Part 2. But without further ado, we're going to get into today's video. So, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Izuku had 10 months to prepare for the entrance exam. His father, Rock Lee, along with his mother, Inko, had decided they were going to train him and get him as ready as he possibly could be. For Rock Lee, he took to training Izuku in the form of taijutsu training. Izuku had had basic ninja arts training from a young age, being able to walk across surfaces such as solids and such as water. He was also able to move rather quickly and conceal himself well. However, his taijutsu training was taking things to another level. He decided that he would teach his son how to open the inner gates, but this was not an easy feat. For to forcibly open the gates, it required a lot of mental and physical energies. It had taken Deku to open the first 2 of the 8 inner gates. The gate of opening, located in the brain's left hemisphere. It removed the user's mental inhabilitations. Opening the gate allowed for the user to perform the front lotus, a technique that tires one afterwards. The second gate, the gate of rest, located in the brain's right hemisphere. It increases the user's physical strength, which has the added effect of re-energizing the body, enabling it to rapidly recover from exhaustion. It took Izuku 7 of the first 10 months to gain access to the first 2 of the inner gates. While it was taxing and draining, the results were absolutely staggering, as Izuku found himself capable of performing many powerful feats. In terms of his fighting style, Rock Lee had learned many more different sort of disciplines and arts in this world, alongside with his taijutsu. For Izuku, on top of his taijutsu training, another martial art that he had taken a liking to was Muay Thai, mainly being for its kicks and punches, but preferably for the kicking. Izuku had noticed that even from a young age, in terms of his punches, while they were absolutely devastating, and punching was the signature move not only for his father, but for All Might as well, his punches never really seemed to do the kind of damage he was looking for. He found most of his heavy damage being done by his legs, and as such, he took to Muay Thai to have a better kicking game. With that, he was a master of the Leaf Hurricane, as well as learning the primary lotus. On top of that, he also added the Dancing Leaf Shadow to his arsenal, in order to perform the primary lotus. When it came to his mother, Inko would help her son in reflexive training. Using her telekinesis, she would take small but dense objects and hurl them at her son while he was blindfolded. They wouldn't hit any vital areas, although his arms and legs would definitely sting after the training was over. Eventually, he was good enough to be able to dodge about 80% of her attacks. There were a few of them that would still catch him off guard, but he was improving. Eventually, the 10 months would be brought to an end, and the day of the exam would be here. Izuku would arrive. His arms would already be wrapped, wearing his jacket over top of them, as well as his sweatpants. As he arrived, he was about to trip and fall on a step, but thankfully he caught himself and flipped over, landing on his feet perfectly. Wow, you're pretty agile. Oh, hi. I'm, Izuku Midoriya. Well, Izuku Lee Midoriya, sorry. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Ochako Uraraka. You going to the exam also? Oh, yeah. I'm really excited. I think I'm going to do very well. Wow, you seem pretty confident. You must have a strong quirk. Oh, it doesn't have a quirk. Oh, hey, Gachan. How's it going? Don't make small talk with me, weakling. Out of my way. I don't even know what you're doing here. There's no way you're gonna get in. I don't care who your father is. Oh, so your dad's a hero? Yeah, he does hero work. And my mom. Oh, really? Who are they? You don't have to say if you don't want to. No, I do. It's just, Izuku would lean and whisper into her ear. My father is Hirodora, and my mother is Miss Magnetism. What? Your father, the Taijutsu hero? And your mother, the magnet hero? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I know, I see. You don't want everyone to know, right? No, it's not that. It's just, I don't want people to think that I'm only here because of them. I really do want to try to earn it on my own merit, you know? That's understandable. But still, it's so exciting. Your mother, she's a real inspiration for me and my quirk. Your quirk? I can make things have zero gravity based on my touch. Wow, that kind of is similar to Mom. Although Mom's is technically telekinesis, but still, it's an anti-gravity quirk to say the least. Yeah, she's one of the reasons why I've wanted to be a hero for so long. The way she's able to rescue others, that's something that I've always wanted to do with my quirk. Wow, that's amazing. Well, we should get inside. I hope I see you later. Yeah, sure. They would make their way inside, where they would go for the written test first. Izuku would do fairly decent, getting a score of 80 on the test. Once he had done so, he would be standing at the starting line where the second portion of the test was going to be. He would see Uraraka and he wanted to go wish her good luck. However, before he could, another boy would stop him. This boy had glasses and he were rather tall with blue hair. He would tell him not to distract her and that he would only be a hindrance. Izuku, nodding in understanding, would decide to go back to where he was, waiting for the start to begin. As everyone waited at the line, thinking that the proctor for the exam, Present Mike, was going to do a countdown, he just immediately yelled go, telling them that when it came to a real-life situation, there was no waiting for the starting line, they just had to go for it. This was where Izuku got to shine. He would lift his head, and taking a deep breath, he would focus his chakra into his feet, and with one leap, he bursted out of the line faster than everyone. He jumped from building to building effortlessly, moving in one single fluid motion as he came across one of the four main robots. The smaller ones were the one-pointer robots. Medium-sized were 2, the larger was 3. There was the large megaton robot, but that one only gave 0 points, so there was no need to worry about it. Izuku quickly made his way towards a couple of the one-pointer robots. He had remembered that when it came to fighting, it was best to always find someone's weak spot. The weak spot in the robots were their joints. That was where Izuku could do the most damage. He would take a deep breath as he went towards a few of the zero-pointed robots. After, with a large swing of his leg, and increasing the chakra in his leg, he would smash through the hip joints of 2 of the robots, causing them to fall and explode rather easily. This was Izuku's strategy for the most part. Sure, he could just punch through the chest of the robots repeatedly over and over again, but his hands weren't entirely used to punching through multiple solid objects like his father was all at once. So he mainly focused on targeting the joints of the robots, ripping them out and taking out the arms and the legs respectively, and he was able to rack up points at a decent rate. The others in the exam would be absolutely amazed at what they were seeing. A few of them recognized the way he was moving and fighting was a lot like the taijutsu hero Hirodora. They wondered if he took inspiration from him somehow. After Izuku got a decent amount of points, at least that's what he believed, he decided to rest on a building and take a break. He felt as though he were on a good track, and if he kept going a little further, then he could probably get some more points in before this was over. However, he would instantly hear a scream coming from off in the distance. As Izuku looked, he would see a zero-pointer robot was making its way. Everyone was evacuating and leaving as quickly as possible. But then there was the yell of a girl he recognized. It was that Uraraka girl. She was trapped under some rubble and she looked like she were in real danger. And no one was stopping to help her. As if his body was moving on its own, without any cause or concern. Instinctively, Izuku would open the inner gates. Not just the first, but the second as well. What possessed him to do this? He wasn't entirely sure. The recourse and the damage from his body was definitely going to be felt the next day. But instantly, he would sweep in before the zero-point robot could crush Uraraka. Swooping her up after kicking away the debris, he would move her out of the way instantly, before turning back to the zero-point robot, as its arm was about to descend upon them. Izuku, holding Uraraka, would move past and run up the side of the arm, kicking it back and sending the robot back a few feet, creating enough space for the 2 of them to escape as he carried Uraraka to safety. Once they were far enough away, the alarm would go off and the exam would be over. The robots would stop immediately and they would all power down. Once Izuku got Uraraka back on the ground for safety and he set her down, he would take to one knee as he felt himself being extremely tired. His muscles, they felt as though they were completely on fire, and he felt tired all over. Eventually, he would fall and lay on the ground, almost as if he couldn't move at all. Thankfully, Recovery Girl would arrive and check on him. She would tell him that he was fine, but he just had a bit of exhaustion. Although Recovery Girl recognized this all too well, for she had been watching. She knew that Izuku's father was Rock Lee and his mother was Inko, and she would make the remark that she had seen something like this long ago. Izuku turning bright red because he remembered that story. The story of how when his parents took this exam, something very similar happened in which Rock Lee had saved Inko from the zero-point robot, and he unintentionally had done the same thing. Uraraka would blush just as well when she heard this story, not thinking that she would have been in a similar situation to the hero she looked up to. At the end of the day, Izuku would eventually go home, telling his parents of what happened and that they were very proud of him. A few weeks later, they would be inside enjoying an evening meal of curry when Izuku's letter would arrive from UA. They would open up the letter and it would be a video message from All Might, congratulating Izuku on getting into the hero course and welcoming him to the Hero Academia. Everyone in the room would yell out in joy as they were happy as Izuku had gotten into UA and he had done really well. They would also learn of how Izuku not only gained villain points, but that he also gained rescue points as well. In total, he gained 70 villain points and he gained 40 rescue points, giving him a total of 110, the highest score. They would also see how Uraraka had come and spoken up on his behalf. Learning of what had happened, this caused Lee and Inko to blush a little bit as well, reliving some of their own younger days when they were in class as well. Eventually, the time would come for Izuku's first day of school. Before leaving, Inko would make sure to take a picture of him in his uniform. She had already bought a frame and had it set up in their bookshelf. On the bookshelf was a picture of Lee in his school uniform and Inko in hers, and a special spot was made for Izuku's picture that would be framed in the middle. The family of heroes who had all gone to the same school. Izuku thanked both of his parents as he went to go catch the train. Just as he was leaving, there would be a knock on the window, and Lee would go to open it. "Oh wow, Hawks, it's good to see you again, my friend." "Hey Lee, well, how's it going?" "Oh, we're doing fine. Izuku just left. He's on his way to school." "First day, huh? Well, congratulations." I wasn't surprised that he would get into UA. "So, is he anything like you?" "Yeah, down to not even having a quirk." "Well, if he's anything like his old man, he's not gonna have anything to worry about." "So, what can I do for you, Hawks?" "It's something important. I came here to pick you up because it's an urgent matter. At the Hero Agency." "I see. Well, there's no point in waiting. Who else is going to be there?" Just me, you. All Might's gonna be taking a sabbatical, but he'll probably be joining us sooner or later. Also, number 3 is gonna be there as well." "Endeavor?" "Yep. This is pretty serious if they're calling 3 of the top 4 heroes." "Well then, let's not keep them waiting." Izuku would arrive to UA. Once he did so, he would look through the halls until eventually he found the large door that led to Class 1A. As he opened it, he could hear many familiar voices. In the corner of the room, he could see that tall boy with glasses was arguing with Bakugo about his feet being on the desk. However, everyone's shift would change as the door opened, and they would see Izuku standing there. Bakugo would have a snarl on his face, as he didn't really care for Deku, and he didn't think that they would be in the same class. However, the taller boy would quickly make his way to him. Shaking his hand, he would tell him that he did really well, and that he must have been truly perceptive to know about the rescue points. Although Izuku would simply be humble, telling him that he really didn't know anything about it. The boy would introduce himself as Tenya Ida, and Izuku would introduce himself as Izuku Lee Midoriya. Just behind them, he would meet with Uraraka again, who would recognize him by his hair, and was happy to see she was in the same class as him. As they were talking and conversing, they would see something rather oddly shaped, lumpy and yellow, rolling from under the desk. They had no idea what it was, thinking it was some type of creature. But really it was just a man in a sleeping bag, sipping on juice. You guys are this loud in the morning? Well, that's not gonna do it all. Okay, all of you, get to your seats now. Everyone would quickly sit down as the teacher would introduce himself. Mr. Aizawa. They would skip the formalities, and Mr. Aizawa would usher them to the back of the room to grab a gym uniform and make their way outside. Of course, Uraraka would ask about orientation and if they were going to miss it, but Mr. Aizawa would tell them not to worry about such trivial things. After all, they were here to be heroes, and that they were going to be having a Quirk apprehension test. Once they made it outside, Mr. Aizawa would tell them that here, they were going to be learning how to use their quirks, and to master them. Unlike before now, where they were usually told to keep their quirks in check and to not use them, here, they were supposed to use them and go all out. He would hand a ball from out of his bag to Midoriya, telling him to go stand in the circle. As he did so, he would ask Midoriya what he got on the ball throw when he was in school, and he would tell them he did decent, getting around 20 meters. But now he wanted him to use his quirk. Izuku would shyly say that he didn't have a quirk, and Mr. Aizawa's eyebrow would be raised, although he wasn't too surprised. After all, based off the information he had been given, he knew exactly who his father was, but there was something he wanted to try out. He would tell Izuku to get in the ball position and to throw it as far as he could. Izuku would take a deep breath and channel some chakra into his fist. Mr. Aizawa would try to use his quirk to see if it were really true that he, along with his father, really were quirkless. Izuku would take a deep breath and throw. Aizawa used his quirk, but nothing happened. The ball went flying, and Mr. Aizawa's phone would get a ring, telling them that the score was 650 meters. This absolutely shocked everyone, especially considering the fact that he said that he was quirkless. But no one could really believe that in this instance. How could someone like him have that type of power and be quirkless? All the same though, they were excited that they were going to be using their powers now, and this sparked a bit of joy amongst everyone. Mr. Aizawa, sensing this, quickly snapped that joy, telling them that whoever got the lowest score today was going to be expelled effective immediately. That quickly shut everyone up. While there were talks that this was unjustified and unfair, Mr. Aizawa would counter that, telling them that in life, many things were unfair. Natural disasters, villains, unforeseen circumstances, all of those things were unfair. But it was a hero's job to combat that unfairness. And with that, there would be a large, insurmountable amount of fear, as everyone now knew that they had to do their very best. Failure to do so would result in expulsion. For Izuku personally, he didn't really have to worry about anything like that. Even if he didn't have a quirk, the power that he did have was more than sufficient. He didn't use them to their fullest extent, making sure to pace himself, but he was able to get top marks in the 50-meter dash, only losing out to Ida. But that was probably because he wasn't using his full power right off the bat. When it came to the grip strength, he was actually second in class, only behind the one known as Shiro, since he had 6 arms, so he had 6 times the power. But of course, if Izuku had opened up the inner gates, then maybe he could have done more. But after all, if he did that, his body might be completely wiped out and he'd be absolutely useless. He would compete in the other trials, and he did fairly decent. Eventually coming back to the ball throw, he would go right after Bakugo. Bakugo in this time had been training himself extra hard because he didn't want to lose out to Deku at all. When it came to the ball throw, he did way more than he was expecting. Condensing his hand into a larger explosion, he would get a score of 749 meters, challenging Izuku to top that. With Mr. Aizawa's permission, he would take the ball throw again. However, since he had completed all the other tasks, he warned Mr. Aizawa he was going to go all out and use his full power, and that if he did so, he might be spent for the day. This caught Mr. Aizawa's curiosity, and he told him to go on. Izuku would take a deep breath. He would channel his chakra within himself. He would open the first and then the second of the 8 inner gates. They could feel the strong aura coming off of them, as it seemed as though the ground itself was starting to shake. With a deep breath, Izuku would coil back his arm before launching the ball straight into the air. It looked like it broke the sound barrier twice as it went crackling across the sky, shooting off in a streaming jet before it looked as if it burned and faded away. Mr. Aizawa would reach down to his phone to check the score again, and his jaw was about to drop. Izuku had reached the total of 925 meters into the air. Although, as quickly as Izuku had used his power, he turned it off just as fast, and his body felt the recoil immediately, as he fell to the ground rather exhausted. Whatever this kid was, they were definitely going to need more of it. If this was all the power that he had now, and he was quirkless, what he could become when he's older, the idea was staggering. Of course though, even with Izuku and Bakugo's impressive scores, they paled in comparison to the one who would get infinity, that being Uraraka, due to her zero gravity quirk, and the ball basically went on and on and on until eventually it was, well, lost. Although it was out there, somewhere. When all the totals and everything had been added up, the one who came in last, it wasn't Izuku. He actually came in at a pretty high rate, getting 3rd overall in the class, only behind who come in first, which was Momo Yaoyorozu, and the boy who had come in second, Shoto Todoroki, although he was one spot ahead of Katsuki Bakugo, who came in 4th, and that really pissed him off. All Might would watch from afar. Seeing the students, he would see a bright group of heroes ready to take the next leap forward. But more importantly, he was looking for someone who could become the potential wielder for one for all. From there, while Mineta did come in last, Mr. Aizawa would tell them that it was only a deceptive ruse, and that this was really just for them to go all out and show what they could do. Although he did want Mineta to try a lot harder going forward, and Mineta promised that he would. From there, they would begin their time in class. They didn't just spend all of it doing hero work, there were other classes that needed to be done, but it seemed as though the one class they looked the most forward to was Hero Studies 101. And for this day, the class was going to be taught by none other than All Might, who was going to be their teacher, and they were going to hold a mock battle trial. As for the students, the shelves would open in the back, revealing their hero costumes, and they would all be told to go and suit up. Izuku was looking forward to this, as he had his costume made with the help of his parents. The hero costume he had was actually based off of the suit his father wore when he was a guinea. It would be the green jumpsuit, the classic. However, underneath the suit was actually a lightweight but rather powerful body armor, decent enough to be able to protect him. On top of that, Instead of wearing the leg warmers that his father wore, Izuku would instead wear specially made shin guards, but underneath the green tracksuit were leg weights, the same ones that Lee wore when he was a genin, and that he had kept for all these years. Izuku would wear them and only take them off when he needed to. And instead of wearing the shinobi sandals, he wore steel-toe combat boots, although his arms were still wrapped in the bandage wrap that he and his father employed when they were in combat. He also had his right leg taped up, as well as having a shuriken holster attached to it. He still had the elements of a shinobi, and as such, he would have learned to use things such as kunai, shuriken, and other ninja-based weapons. With his shuriken tied to his right thigh, he would have a kunai pouch attached to his hip, as well as having a headband personally made by Rock Lee, which bore the Konoha symbol, which he tied around his waist like a belt. Also, on his belt was a signature weapon that he did like to use, that being the nunchuck, that could also be attached together to form a bully club. And finally, it seemed in case he needed anything else, he also had a ski mask. A mask that he could throw over himself whenever he needed to, in case he needed to be stealthy, attached to the back. From there, he was ready to go, and when everyone saw his costume, there was no telling that he was a lot like the taijutsu hero Hirodora. Many would start wondering if that was his son or something along those lines. And one person who would be paying close attention to that would be none other than Shoto Todoroki. The class of 20 students would be divided. They would be doing the mock battle in groups of 4, and among the group of 4, they would be divided into 2 teams. 2 students would be heroes and 2 would be villains. This was kind of a more advanced game of capture the flag. The villain team would be inside of a building that would serve as their base. Their goal was to protect what was a fake bomb, pretending to be villains, while the hero team would have to go inside. They would either have to capture the bomb or the villains within the allowed time. For Izuku, he was partnered with none other than Uraraka by chance, Uraraka being amazed at his costume, and he thought that hers was rather cute also. He could tell from its design that she really did take inspiration from his mother, and she was really shy when he noticed, since Miss Magnetism was her favorite hero. The team they were going up against was Bakugo and Ida. Izuku already knew what to expect from Bakugo, and he warned Uraraka that in all likelihood, Bakugo was going to be coming after him, and that he would make an opening for her to go straight after the bomb. She nodded, and the two would put their plan into action as they made their way inside of the building. Although Izuku had a better idea. He would pick up Uraraka and telling her to hold on tight. He would focus chakra into his feet and he would start to walk up the side of the walls. The class watching from the safety room would be absolutely amazed at Izuku's abilities. They thought he only had super strength, but how on earth was he able to walk up the surface of a wall? He did so calmly, almost as if he were truly like a ninja, or something along those lines. Once they made their way to a window, they would both crawl inside. Once they saw that the hall was empty, Izuku would tell Uraraka to make her way up the stairs and to get as far away from him as possible. He would go in the opposite direction, as he could already hear the loud yelling coming from above. He knew that Bakugo was coming after him. Uraraka would agree, wishing him good luck as she headed onwards. As she did so, from the other side of the hall, from around the corner, Bakugo would come charging in with his explosions at the ready. "This time I finish you off, you damn nerd!" Izuku would hold his hand up, getting into the signature stance like his father used to. He would wait as Bakugo would come charging in. Izuku with one fluid motion would grab his right arm and quickly slam him into the ground. This wasn't any technique per se, this was simply just him knowing how Bakugo fought. After years upon years of studying him and of sparring with him after school from time to time, he knew how Bakugo liked to fight, and Bakugo felt like even more of an idiot because of the fact that this damn ninja monkey had been able to study him so thoroughly. Bakugo quickly got back to his feet and started to launch a combination of explosions that Izuku was mostly able to dodge. Izuku, instead of keeping his distance, got up close and personal, trading shots and body blows with Bakugo. When it came to their fighting style, it wasn't any surprise who had the advantage. It was Izuku. Bakugo was a brawler to say the least, but he didn't have any skill, no technique, no finesse, nothing of that kind. For the most part, Bakugo felt as though he was lagging in many areas, and there was no way on earth he was going to be able to catch up. Bakugo would kick Izuku in the gut, flying back to create space. He would launch a large explosion once again, creating enough dust in the room to blind Izuku so that he couldn't see anything. Bakugo would quickly come in for a charge, hitting him in the gut once more. He would let an explosion go off at point-blank range. The gauntlets that he wore were rather dense and heavy. Izuku could tell that this was a lot similar to what he and his father did wearing the leg weights. Although, he didn't seem to apply himself in that regard. These were just weapons, not anything that he used for training, although he could see the benefit. As their fight continued onward, it was becoming slowly obvious who truly held the advantage in this fight. No matter what Bakugo did, he just simply didn't have a way to counter Izuku. Izuku seemed to always be in his face, constantly hitting him with a barrage of combo attacks over and over again. Even more so, the more that he tried to fight it off, the worse it got for him. Eventually, once they had made their way to an open space down on the floor below, Izuku would tell Bakugo to stand down, that the fight was over and there was no reason to push himself this far. But Bakugo had no intention on quitting, and with that, he would connect both of his grenade gauntlets together, removing 2 pins in each one. "You know how my quirk works, don't you, you damn nerd? My body collects sweat, nitroglycerin, and it compacts it into an explosion. These gauntlets have been storing all of that sweat for this time, and I've got 2 large blasts with your name on it." All Might would warn Bakugo not to do anything reckless, telling him that if he launched an explosion like that, the entire building could be destroyed in the process. However, Bakugo didn't really seem to care in this moment. The only thing that he wanted to do was destroy Izuku right here and now. Izuku knew that that explosion could cause a lot of damage to the building. He had to think fast and on his feet. With no choice, Izuku would crouch down. He would open the first gate. As he had done so, he would blitz towards Bakugo. Just before the explosion could go off, he would tackle him, and the two would go flying outside of the building. Once they were on the outside, Izuku would quickly kick off the grenade gauntlets, kicking them multiple times into the air. Once he had done so, he would use the bandage wrap around them and hurl them as far as he could, as a large explosion would go off in the air itself. The explosion would be so large that even the building itself would shake. However, thankfully, no damage would be done. Before he would collapse, Izuku would grab Bakugo and slam him back into the room once more. He would quickly grab the capture tape and tie him up, although Izuku could feel the drain from using the first of the inner gates, causing him to stagger as he fell over a bit. He would have to wait a few minutes before he could get re-energized once more. Bakugo would be absolutely livid, and he wanted to get up and keep fighting, but All Might would tell him to stand down because he was captured and he was out of the game. With no choice, Bakugo would only hold his head down, completely ashamed that he had lost so easily. As for Izuku, he would stagger back to his feet and slowly make his way to the main room, where Uraraka was, along with Ida. Ida playing a game of cat and mouse, basically moving so fast that Uraraka wasn't able to catch him. As Izuku would observe the situation, instead of using his power, he would instead use his stealth. He would move in the shadows of the room, making sure that Ida wouldn't be able to see him when he was coming. Ida was so distracted on Uraraka, and he thought that that large explosion meant that Bakugo had taken out Izuku somehow, so he had no way of knowing where Izuku might be. However, Izuku would make hand signals for Uraraka, getting her in position. Once Uraraka was where she needed to be, Izuku would get the drop on Ida, tying him up and capturing him immediately as Uraraka would go for the bomb, with just enough time to spare. Ida would be absolutely amazed at Izuku's skill, the way that he was able to move in the room so easily. He never once suspected that he was there in the first place. With that, the hero team would win, and it would be a job well done for Izuku and for Uraraka. The class would be absolutely amazed with the fight, surprised to see that Izuku had that type of power, and Bakugo would be admonished for doing something so dangerous. The rest of the exam would continue on as normal, and everyone got a chance to show off their impressive abilities and what they were capable of. But there was one student, one that not only caught Bakugo's attention, but Izuku's as well. A student capable of using an immense ice quirk. Someone who seemed to be an entirely different beast. His name was Shoto Todoroki. This concludes What If Deku Was the Son of Rock Lee? My Hero Academia Fighting Spirit Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else on PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video, as we'll be continuing Darling in the Franxx Lionhearted, Darling in the Franxx X Voltron Legendary Defender, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.